Hevenu Shalom aleichem. Hevenu Shalom aleichem. Hevenu Shalom aleichem. Hevenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom aleichem. Hevenu Shalom aleichem. Hevenu Shalom aleichem. Hevenu Shalom aleichem. Hevenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom aleichem. Hevenu Shalom aleichem. Hevenu Shalom aleichem. Hevenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom aleichem. Welcome to Hebrew Perspectives. Hag Sameach Sukkot. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today on this Shabbat. We are thankful to be here. We thank you for joining us. We are Hebrew Perspectives. We bring the Hebrew perspective. This is what we do. We love to learn and teach Torah. Every morning we pray for more opportunity to be able to propagate the Lord's Torah and bring others to the one true God. What we do here on a regular basis each week, and then this Torah study, it's in the description of the YouTube video. It's also on the description of the Hebrew Perspectives page. It's posted each week. It's part of the weekly readings. And it's what we do. Now, this week's Torah portion, Torah, again, for those of you that are new, is the first 5 books of the Bible. Yes, it is. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, and Deuteronomy. You have to say 5. And that is the Torah. And Torah also means instruction. But it's so much more than just that. It's Torah Chaim, instructions for life, how we live, how we apply Torah to our lives. Now, remember, folks, I'm Roy Johnson, and we're coming to you from Iowa. We don't always say where we are, but that's where we are. That's what we're doing. More and more people of the locality are interested in what we're doing. They get questions. They're getting more and more questions. It's wonderful. And we are doing a lot more things in Mason City than we've been doing before. And so it's wonderful. So like and share and subscribe on YouTube. I've noticed a couple of subscribers recently. More followers on HP on the Facebook page. That's great. Thankful for all of you that have been joining us. And so this week's Torah portion is Vzot Habracha. And that means, in Hebrew, it means this is the blessing. For those of you that are new, the name of the Torah portion each week comes from the first word, the first few words of that Torah portion. And so this is the blessing, are the first words in Deuteronomy chapter 33. You'll notice that in the description, what we're doing here today, we also do on a regular basis, we post the aliyah each day. The aliyah means to go up. We go up. Just the Messiah, he went up to read. That was a custom. It's still done today. That's what we are doing. We are going up to read. We are going to discuss the Torah. So we post an aliyah each day, and it's the same readings that were done by the Messiah and his disciples. And of course, we add a little bit extra. We add something from the Gospels or some other things that may help. And one of the things that we did last year, and we're repeating again this year, is that we added the 613 commandments as well. So I think today we are on... where were we? The reason why I'm bringing this up because I found it to be really particularly interesting. And so today was not to bear a grudge, Leviticus 19:18. And then the next one was to learn Torah and to teach it, Deuteronomy 6:7. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. and it's interesting because, and then tomorrow is to, one of the commandments is to have everything handy dandy on my phone here. Then the next one, like tomorrow, is to honor those who teach and know Torah. So as you're learning Torah and you're teaching Torah, God will honor you as well, and he'll help you. So we're here to learn and to teach. But I thought it was interesting that ended up being today's was to learn Torah and to teach it. And it's a lot of, it's about as much of it has to do with our subject today. This is the blessing. We're going to talk about our inheritance today. But before we do that, we are going to say the Torah blessing. We are going to say the Torah blessing. This is said in synagogues around the world every time before Torah study begins. And it is, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and has commanded us to engross ourselves in the words of Torah. Please, Lord our God, sweeten the words of Torah in our mouth and in the mouth of your people, the family of Israel. May we and our offspring and the offspring of your people, hallelujah, the house of Israel, all of us know your name and study your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Lord, who teaches Torah to his people Israel. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who selected us from all the peoples and gave us his Torah. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah. And as the blessing says, may Torah study always be sweet to you. All right, so now, again, I said, Chag Sameach Sukkot. That's basically, it's happy holiday. That's where, when you're wishing somebody a happy holiday, that's the general greeting that's used for each of the moed. You may say, what's a moed? A moed is an appointed time, a time in the Bible. You read about them in Leviticus chapter 23. For those of you that read the King James Version, it says it's a holy convocation, or in other words, a holy rehearsal, something that you rehearse on a regular basis. Why do people rehearse? So they get better at it, right? Right. Why are we rehearsing? Because it is about things to come, what we will be doing in the future, in what the Messiah was talking about, being the kingdom of God, being a part of the kingdom of God. And so I got distracted here for a second, but we'll get back on track here real quick. So Chag Sameach Sukkot. Lost my train of thought, but we can easily, I'll tell you what, there is so much involved in what we do that you never run out of things to learn and study. As a matter of fact, the more that we do it, the more we realize that there is that much more that is. You want to talk, the Torah is described as being a great treasure, something that's just full of wealth. You want to be wealthy? Study Torah. You want to be wealthy? Give tzedakah. Tzedakah is charity. That's what it comes down to. Because that word tzedakah, it's also the same. It's part of the word tzaddik, which means to be righteous. And so now what we're going to do, since we're talking a little bit about Sukkot before we get into our Torah study today, I've got a box on the table here behind me. Come this way. I saved it for just today. Follow me. So we have, hopefully, yes, good, this works. All right, I've got my trusty knife. I'm going to use safety, of course. And we are going to we're going to open this box that they timed perfectly from Israel to send to us perfectly for this day, for us to enjoy, and for us so we could learn together and grow. Yeah, look at that. We're doing it, folks. In this box is the 4 kinds. Some folks call it the 4 species. And you see there, it's hard to talk and concentrate at the same time without. Let me put the knife down so I don't cut my fingers open. I think I've got the box here. There we go. We're working on it. Hopefully all of you can see. They packed it so nicely. Handled with care, extremely fragile. Oh my. Wow, this looks wonderful. Boy, maybe I should have opened this. Maybe I should have opened this before. I did not realize there's going to be this much tape and this much packing. Hey, but we're having fun. You know, the holiday of Sukkot is also known as the time of our rejoicing. That's right, the time of our rejoicing. And there's a lot of teaching surrounding the holiday of Sukkot. It has become one of the most popular holidays among many people around the world to celebrate because there is so much joy, so much simcha, so much rejoicing involved in it. I'm going to bring some of these over here. Let's see here. We have. All right, so let's just do this one at a time, huh? So we can kind of get some things to figure out here, or that we can learn about together, I should say. And so everything is so nicely packed. I actually need a pair of scissors. This will work better with scissors. My trusted assistant will get me some scissors. Lots of tape. I really love how much care was taken to make sure that this came in. It was brought. Yeah, I need some scissors here. Pardon me, one moment. Yeah. All right, so here we go. So what we have here, we have the 4 kinds. There's a palm branch. Wait a minute. Let me go over here. We don't have everything. Let me bring everything over. Let me grab the scissors. No, I'll just bring the whole box over. All right, here we go. Having more fun than I should be allowed to have. More fun than I should be allowed to have. So this is our etrog. And the reason why we waited till today, the holiday of Sukkot started last night. No, it started last night, and but today is a Shabbat, so it's not a mitzvah, it's not a commandment today to what we would call wave the species. Generally, the commandment has to do with bringing all 4 of these kinds, these species together. This is an etrog. All right, we're going to put that right there, and we're going to set this over here. And then we're going to, oh yeah, good thing I brought the box over here. Yeah, they did a really good job of securing all of this in here. So here is our palm branch. Here's our palm branch. Oh no.
What?
I lost the little holder at the bottom.
Boy, just set them on the box.
There is it's interesting, but you can actually find if it doesn't come all together like I ordered, that they actually have you can find instructions on how to wrap all of this, kind of like a do-it-yourself, a DIY. Oh boy. Okay, this is going to be delicate here.
Yes.
I did not realize how delicate this is. We are on a journey together here, folks.
I put those on the table.
Look at that.
Beautiful.
All right, so you have the 4 species. Put this over there. And I'm going to set this down. So we have palm branch, and we have the willow, and we have myrtle. What's interesting about myrtle branches is that these are all common to Israel, of course. And what's interesting about them all is that, myrtle is one of those plants that can resurrect.
Yeah.
And that's really great. Let's see here. All right, let's open up the next one. And so, yeah, so as I was saying earlier, we would bring these all together here. And
from the end and bring it out the other end, maybe.
Yeah, maybe that's the mistake I made the last time. I've got it now. Ooh, my. Oh, getting wet. There's a little bit of moisture in here.
Gotta keep them fresh.
So, yes.
All the way from
all the way from Israel. Look how fresh and beautiful these are.
Blessing.
Myrtle and willow and palm branches. Bring all 4 of these together. The first time I ever did this was with Rabbi De Benedetti. That was the first. Got 2 cameras, so I'm trying to share it with all. And then you would bring the etrog together, all 4 of the species together like this. And it's customary to wave it in all 6 in 6 directions. So you would wave it. Right. So I had a trainee at work with me all week, and we were always talking about north, south, east, and west. And so now I'm in a position right now where I'm having to think about where's north, where's south, east, west. So north is this way, so we wave it to the north, wave it to the south, wave it to the east.
Is there a band on the top one?
Yes, there is. I don't want it to get loose.
Oh,
And we'd wave it to the west, and we'd wave it up
yeah.
and down. And that's the custom. And this is normally done in the sukkah. And
it will be done.
because this is the festival of Sukkot, we spend a week in the sukkah. Some of you, if you've been on Facebook, you've seen the picture of our sukkah, and we tend to use the same sukkah. And so you would do that you do this in the morning, and you would be fulfilling a mitzvah, and you would, what's this here? Well, it's just some, and then you would do this each day, but then again, as we were saying, you would not do it on, we do not do it on Shabbat.
Just today, and we're doing it.
So just today, I was just showing you
Yes, that was
on how it's done.
beautiful. Put it to the right a little bit more so they can see it in the camera.
All right, so move it over here a little bit more. A lot more.
There you go. Perfect.
All right.
Beautiful.
Whew. Was that fun or what?
Yeah.
We were on a journey together there. So again, the willows, the aravot, they sent us 3 of those little willows, and then they sent us the hadasim, which is the myrtles, and then the etrog is a citron. It's a citrus fruit. I actually do not know what it tastes like. Then you of course you have the lulav. That's the palm branch. So you may hear somebody say, and if you follow anything that comes from, like videos or something like that, from people who are shooting things in videos and in say at the Western Wall, there will be a lot of people on the next day of Sukkot, after the Shabbat. There'll be a lot of Jewish people coming together and waving the lulav is what it'll be mentioned as, or waving the 4 kinds. So the palm branch is the lulav part of it. It's the biggest part of what you're doing. And so this is called the arba manim, or the 4 kinds. And arba manim is pretty much the main obligation, just bringing, like I said, just bringing things together. And then you would say, there's a prayer. You would say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav vitzivanu anetilat lulav. Again, there's that lulav word, right? And then you would pick up the etrog in your left hand, and you would say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam sheheke yanu vekimanu vihigiyanu lizman hazeh, which is, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has granted us life, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this occasion.
Beautiful.
Now, like I said, just bringing those 4 things together, that's the mitzvah.
Yes.
That's what we do. But again, I said, beyond that, the waving of it, that becomes that's a custom. That's, in the Hebrew, that's what's called a minhag. And many Jewish people have different customs, but that is the majority custom. There is doing the north, south, east, west, and the up and down of the waving of the lulav and etrog. So I took a lot of time doing that, but I think we're still okay.
Yeah, we're fine. It's good.
And what we will now do is, and so this morning, the Rebbetzin and I, we were looking at Rabbi Twersky's Living Each Day devotional, and And I told her, I said, we have to share this with everybody today because it's some good stuff. I'm pretty sure this book is still in print. It's called Living Each Day, Rabbi Twersky. We've gone through this book a few times. Let's see. That's better like that. I mean, look at where the binding is falling apart on there. That's how much we've used this book. I did buy another one, but I gave it away. And well, I should say, you know, my little Jewish mother-in-law, this was her book, and so I bought a new one. And then when she came for a visit, I gave her the new one, and I kept the old one. She wanted to take the old one, but I wanted her to have the new one. So, you have chosen us from among all peoples. You have loved us and taken pleasure in us. You have exalted us above all tongues and have sanctified us by your commandments. You have drawn us near to your service and have called your great and holy name upon us. This is part of the Amidah for festivals, for the festival. In other words, just like we were talking about here, for the festival, there are special prayers for the moed, for the appointed times we come together. That's where I forgot to finish talking about, was about the moed, about the appointed time. God's set appointed times for us to meet with God.
Yes.
And not just individually, but all of us. Where the individual, where the I becomes the we. That's what happens. We meet with God, all of us. Rabbi Twersky says, to be the chosen people of God is both a privilege and responsibility. Some people think that they can enjoy privileges without assuming commensurate responsibilities. Some people think of consumerism. There is a law of living which must be accepted. We just talked about Torah Chaim, right? The Torah, the instruction for life. All right. So there is a law of living which must be accepted. There are no privileges without attendant responsibilities. How many of you got an allowance when you were a kid? You really didn't have to have an allowance. There were long periods of time where I never even got that 25 cents for that week. But anyway, but it was basically a reward for doing what you're supposed to do. Oh, so many people want the reward, but they don't want to do what you need to do to get it. Rabbi Twersky continues, he says, you have sanctified us with your commandments and have drawn us near to your service. The obligation to diligently observe the divine will. What is the divine will? It's the Torah. That's the divine will. You want to know what the will of God is for your life? It's the Torah. The obligation to diligently observe the divine will is the responsibility that accompanies the election as God's chosen people. We are God's chosen people. We are proud to be the chosen. But we must realize that our behavior reflects not only on us as individuals, there it is again, not only on us as a nation, but also on us as the chosen people of God. We must fulfill the obligation that this station demands. I sat in a Torah study and I listened to a fellow Jew who was quite scared with being chosen. Felt that it was way too much responsibility. It's really not. It's really not. This morning, my wife said something interesting to me. She said, we're doing these things in life, and we are being blessed by doing them, by following God's commandments. But it'd be so easy to just go back to the mundane. to just fall back into some routine of just living life along, just floating along the river and being dumped at the lowest point, which I really don't want to do that. I'd rather swim upstream. Rabbi Akiva says the sukkah, we talked about the sukkah. We're going to spend a week in the sukkah. We're going to eat our meals in there. We'll invite guests. The sukkah commemorates the thatched huts wherein the Israelites dwelt during their wanderings in the desert following the exodus from Egypt. Sukkah 11b. What is so wonderful about living in thatched huts that warrants commemoration by an 8-day festival? We celebrate Passover in commemoration of the wondrous miracles that God performed in our deliverance from the enslavement of Egypt. You think about it. People love Passover and everything that happens with it. Everybody has a favorite Jewish holiday. Mine is Shabbat. I realize that there's deliverance. And then here he talks about, he says, and we celebrate Shavuot, Pentecost, in observance of the great revelation at Sinai, the receiving of the Torah. Yeah, that was, wow. When Torah really first comes to our life, we really, really get a hold of it. And that's a life-changing thing. Yes, we remember those things. Again, though, some people really love this time of year, Sukkot, like I said, because of all the simcha, because of all the joy. Of course, there's joy in everything. Even in Yom Kippur that we just celebrated, it may seem to be a solemn time, a time of judgment. We've done much teshuvah. But it's also a very joyous time. It's a joyous time knowing, hey, we're still here. God hasn't stopped thinking about us. He stops thinking about you. Well, you can tell me about it when I see you on the other side. So, compared to these, Rabbi Twersky continues, compared to these epochal events of what significance are thatched huts? That is precisely the point. We must learn to be grateful for the small things in life as well as the great gifts we receive. It was not beyond God to create luxurious palaces in the desert. However, he wanted to learn that we must be appreciative of everything given to us, regardless of how little it may be. Sukkot is referred to as the festival of harvest. And as I mentioned before, it's also known as the time of our rejoicing. Our harvest may be abundant, or it may be meager. In either case, we must be appreciative and grateful for what we are given. Amen. Amen. Now, we've covered a lot here this morning, and now we're going to talk a little bit about our inheritance. And really, we're going to concentrate on one verse in today's parasha, Vzot Habracha. As you kind of get familiar with Hebrew, you realize bracha, that word within Habracha, bracha, that's the word for blessing or bless. We really are a blessed people. We really are. We continue to study Torah, give tzedakah, follow God's commandments, connect with him. Remember, mitzvah means to connect with God. We do these physical things to help us to elevate to spiritual things. And that's why this is the blessing. Now, there's a story I'm going to share with you. Once Rabbi Yaneh was walking along the way when he met a man who was elegantly dressed. Rabbi Yaneh said to him, "Will the master be my guest?" And he replied, "As you please." Yaneh took him home and questioned him on Bible, but he knew nothing. On Talmud, but he knew nothing. On Agada. Agada is just more methods and different ways of applying Torah to your life. It's kind of an order, kind of, like the Haggadah that we talk about, Haggadah, and we follow the Haggadah or the telling for the Passover Seder. But he knew nothing. Finally, he asked him to say grace. The man, however, replied, "Let Yaneh say grace in his house." Yaneh then said to him, "Can you repeat what I tell you?" The man answered, "Yes." Rabbi Yaneh then said, "Say, a dog has eaten Yaneh's bread." The guest then rose up and seized Rabbi Yaneh, demanding, "Where is my inheritance that you have and are keeping from me?" Rabbi Yaneh says, "What inheritance of yours do I have?" He replied, "The children recite, 'Moses commanded us the Torah, an inheritance of the congregation of Jacob,' Deuteronomy 33:4." And that's in our Torah portion today. That's the verse we're dwelling on here today. He continues, he says, "It is not written congregation of Yaneh, but congregation of Jacob." This story comes from Leviticus Rabbah. It's a powerful story. We see Rabbi Yaneh he comes across this elegantly dressed stranger, and he automatically assumes, because of the way he's dressed and everything, that the man is learned, that he probably knows something. Remember, looks can be deceiving, right? So he assumes that this man must be well educated. And it just goes to show you, some of the smartest people, well, never mind, I won't go that way. I'll continue on. I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday about this. It's, yeah. I was telling somebody. It was telling my trainee yesterday. I was saying, you may know something that I don't. I may be very ignorant of it, but you know a lot. And everybody is like that.
Right.
And I think we were talking about, I think we were talking about autism or something like that, and how there's so much focus on one thing. But anyway, and so he had worked with autistic children quite a bit before he came to work with us. So as the story goes, Rabbi Yaneh takes the man home, and he soon realizes that this man doesn't have any Jewish education whatsoever. And he doesn't know anything of rabbinic literature. He can't even say the Birkat Hamazon, the grace after meals. And Rabbi Yaneh, he is a Torah scholar. But he looks down at this guest with contempt. Of course, we realize that this isn't right. This is not something that should be done. But then, the stranger, with dignity, he says, "The Torah is my inheritance as well as yours." He's basically saying, since you have much Torah, he says, share what you have with someone who doesn't have much.
Right.
He was basically saying, hey, I don't know anything about Torah. Why don't you say the blessing? Start with something simple.
Yes.
And we can learn from there. Instead of dismissing me, teach me.
Right.
How often do we do something like that? Oftentimes we do it more than we realize. If the rabbis say, if there's something that touches a nerve in you a little bit,
yeah,
it's probably something that you need to work on.
Right.
And so this idea has been in Judaism throughout history, and it's a great power. This idea that Torah knowledge belongs to everyone.
Yes. Amen.
Torah knowledge belongs to everyone. That everyone should have a chance to learn. That education should be universal.
Yes.
That everyone should be, if possible, they should be literate in in laws, in history, in faith, and you're going to learn all of that in Torah.
Yes, that's true.
Education is the highest form of dignity.
There you go.
It is the highest form of dignity, and it needs to be accessible to all. So here now you realize one of the reasons why we do what we do right here, bringing you the Hebrew perspective.
That's right.
So that we all learn together. This idea goes really far back. It really goes way back. And you know, to some, this may seem radical. But knowledge, well, remember what Sir Francis Bacon said, that knowledge is power? I think G.I. Joe said it too. So, but here's what the problem is that those that do have knowledge, they tend to not share it with others. And sadly, some knowledge that people do love to share with others to make themselves feel powerful is gossip.
Yeah, that's true.
They just can't wait to share that and show how powerful knowledge is in that direction.
Right.
But when it comes to things of learning of Torah Chaim, instruction for life, you seem to hold on to those things. Think about it now. Most societies throughout the world and throughout history have had very, basically you have your social elite. And they are the literate ones. They are the smart people. They're the ones that control the administration. They control the government. And to this day, many of the professions of these folks, they use a technical vocabulary that is intelligible only to the insiders.
Right.
Now, think about our government, you know. You have people in our government basically saying, you don't have to read it, just vote for it.
Right, because I said so.
Because I all right. But then if you were to read it, you would be like, huh? It'd be like the Groucho Marx routine and with his brother Chico in the famous movie A Night at the Opera, where they're going over the contract, the legal contract. The party of the first part should be the party of the second part, you know, and then at the bottom, you know, there's like, he's like, what's this at the bottom? And he's like, it's a sanity clause. What's this? So Chico says, you can't fool me. There is no sanity clause, you know, but he says, no. It has to do with anyone who is in their right mind. If they're not in their right mind, this contract would be null and void. All right. I'm sorry to chase a rabbit there, but that's just funny stuff. But they're basically making it so that their knowledge is impenetrable to the outsider. Right. But Judaism has always been different.
Right. That's right.
And it's a very profound thing.
Yeah.
It's the birth of Judaism was at the same time as when the Semitic alphabet came out. Aleph, Bet, Vet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yud, Chav, Chav. Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pei, Fei. Tzadi, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Sin, Ta, Ba, Ba, Da, Ba, Da. Letters.
Yeah.
22 letters. At first, written on walls.
Yes.
And you know, it graduated to other peoples and other languages, you know, like Egyptians have their hieroglyphics. And then you had people who started writing it down on animal skins. That was an education coming about.
Yes. An
education coming about. Because in those days, in the age of the patriarchs, there were many people that were enslaved. Right. They were slaves. The powerful people of that time would gather those people, and they would they're the uneducated, and they would say, this is what you have to do. Not educating those people at all, or the people, or the slaves, I should say. The alphabet with its mere 22 symbols, it's like a DNA. It's a language. There's so much within each individual letter. Letters are made up of other letters. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing alphabet.
Right.
But when this came about, what happened is it opened up the Semitic languages, opened up the opportunity, the possibility for everyone
That's it.
to have literacy.
That's it.
All across the world. So, and then Judaism saw a lot of this. It seemed to be at the forefront of a lot of it.
Yes.
Abraham, when you think of Abraham, you think of Father Abraham had many sons. You think of so many things about Abraham. But one of the main things as to why God chose Abraham is it says in Genesis 18 and 19, for I have chosen him so that he will instruct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord.
That's it. Beautiful.
Then, even throughout all of our liturgy here, we said it here, we prayed it here recently in Yom Kippur service. We said this in Deuteronomy 11:19. We said it a couple of times. It's said often throughout the year. It's something that Moses was speaking about education when he says, teach them to your children, speaking of them when you sit down at home and when you travel on the way, when you lie down and when you rise. It's also the Shema. We sing it.
Yes.
The Shema is said more than any other thing, any other prayer.
That's true. On rising, on voice, on earth, on death.
So then even here's this great thing, even right, Moses even gives an example that we learned out about not that long ago when we were back in the book of Numbers. There was this point where, I don't know, we really didn't talk about it in our Torah portion, but Eldad and Medad, they were going around and they were prophesying in the camp. And Joshua, he came to Moses and he's like, whoa, shouldn't we do something about this? And Moses, he said in Numbers 11:29, he said, would that all the Lord's people, he said, no, he says to Joshua, he says, are you jealous on my behalf? Would that all the Lord's people were prophets and that the people would put his spirit upon them. What was he saying right there? What did the prophets all prophesy and teach about? Coming to Torah. Coming to God's laws, living a Torah life, a Torah true life. That's what Moses was talking about. Would that everyone was a prophet. Oh, that's just amazing. Moses wished that everyone had the access to the divine that he had. There was something very distinctive about the character, about the covenant-making ceremony that happened at Mount Sinai during Shavuot, during Pentecost. It's so unique as to what happened in mankind, or to mankind, and we talked about this not too long ago. Many things come to individuals, but at Mount Sinai, it came to everyone.
Yes.
The revelation of God was not just to one prophet or to the elite. It was to an entire people.
Wow.
And the Torah expresses it repeatedly. In Exodus 19:8, the people all responded together.
Yes.
We talk about being on the same page all the time here at Hebrew Perspectives. My wife and I, many of our discussions are all, if we could just get all on the same page.
Yes.
I was talking to Rabbi Libby, and I said, if we could just get all on the same page. And I told him, I said, sometimes whenever we're teaching this, I feel like being, I'm like one of the contestants in the Miss Universe pageant. And I want world peace. Rabbi Libby's, I feel your frustration. we all need to be on the same page. Exodus 24:7. Then he took the book of the covenant, and what did he do? He read it to the people.
Yes.
Everybody assembled together. Just not too long ago, in Deuteronomy 31, we learned about how Moses assembled all the people together. It says here, it says, assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the migrants living in your towns, so they can listen and learn to fear the Lord your God and follow carefully all the words of law. Deuteronomy 31:12. He's talking about, this is something it's called the hachel. It's something done every 7 years. Everybody comes together. Everybody hears the Torah. It wasn't just so that everyone. It was not that everyone may have knowledge of the laws and the traditions of the people. It was that they must.
Right. That's it.
We must.
That's it.
This was a path that was breaking away from what the norm was. It was not an equality of power or wealth, but an equality of education. If everybody has access to education, if everybody has the opportunity to learn, everyone can be blessed.
That's right.
Through Deuteronomy, through all of Moses, everything that he talks about, his speeches, his drashes, all that he talks about, it all has to do with, a lot of it has to do with adult education. You go anywhere in the world and you look for a synagogue, you go to their website, and you will find that there is a section in there called adult education.
That's right.
And you will find access to adult education. Yes, we learn and we teach children. We teach our children. But there are adult education programs.
Yes, you do too.
Learning Hebrew,
Yes.
learning how to say the blessings,
Yes.
learning Talmud.
Yes.
We look at Moses, he's a great example. The Messiah, Yeshua, was a great example, gathering a core number of people to him that could learn and teach. Did he or did he not also send them out to teach? He did. So Moses, we learned about Ha'azinu last week, the song. Moses basically took the entire people and made them disciples. Everybody. Teaching them both the law, the commands, the statutes, the judgments, and no less importantly, but the history that lay behind the law. And that is the prologue to the song Ha'azinu. We read about this last week. Deuteronomy 31:30. Moses recited the words of the song from beginning to end in the hearing of the whole assembly of Israel. So this prologue, this blessing, so we have a prologue here to the blessing Vzot Habracha. This is the blessing which Moses, the man of God, blessed the Israelites before his death. Moses commanded us the Torah, an inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. Deuteronomy 33, 1 and 4. We read verse number 4 at the beginning of what I was talking about our inheritance. This verse quoted from Rabbi Yanet's guest as proof that Torah belongs to everyone. It does. It's not a possession of the learned. It's not a possession of the elect. It's not something for the specially gifted. It's not of a certain class of people or a certain caste of people.
Right.
It's the inheritance of the entire congregation of Jacob. This, this is pretty radical. There's a story in the book of Judges with Gideon. Gideon, he was waging war against the Midianites, and he asked the people of Sukkot. Yeah, there's a city named Sukkot in the Bible. Yeah, that is pretty interesting. But he asked them to give his troops food, and his troops said, no, go and win the battle first, then we'll feed you. That seems kind of mean. So it kind of irked Gideon a little bit. Yeah, you would think it did. Yeah, it would irk just about anybody. He got a little bit angry. He went on to win the war. But on his return, we read, it says, he caught a young man of Sukkot and questioned him. And the young man wrote down for him the names of the 77 officials of Sukkot, the elders of the town, in Judges 8:14. So all of a sudden you're like, what's important about this? What does this mean? The rest of the story doesn't have anything to do with it. It doesn't matter here. At this point right here, what we just read right here is what's extraordinary, is that more than 3,000 years ago, an Israelite leader, Gideon, he took for granted that a young man just chosen at random knew how to read and write. And what's even more impressive about this is that it's the incidental detail. He knew everybody's names and how to write their names. 70 some people. What's more impressive is that the detail to it. That's what draws our attention. And this lesson wasn't forgotten, because in the 5th century before the Common Era, when everyone was coming back from Babylon, Ezra, he brought all the people together in Jerusalem, giving them, in essence, what we would call an adult education.
Right.
He gave them a seminar. He gave them a seminar in Jewish literacy. Says in Nehemiah 8:2 and 3, so on the 7th day of the 7th month, Ezra the priest brought the law before the assembly, which was made up of men and women and all who were able to understand. He read it aloud from daybreak till noon as he faced the square before the water gate in the presence of the men, women, and others who could understand. And all the people listened attentively to the book of the law. So both he and Nehemiah, we find out just a few verses later in the 8th verse, they positioned Levites throughout all of the congregation to help to explain what was being read, so that they had an understanding. They were getting some adult education, and they were getting, not only were they together as a group, but they were getting it individually as well. Do you understand what is being taught? Do you have any questions? That's what Torah study is all about. Do we understand? Do we have any questions? I like to see questions on the Facebook post for Hebrew Perspectives.
Good. Yeah.
Because
Shows interest.
we need to ask questions.
Yes.
When I go sit with Rabbi Libby, I ask him questions.
Right.
Why on Yom Kippur? I asked him. Do we say Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad? Then we say Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. It's only said aloud on Yom Kippur, but the rest of the time throughout, we say it numerous times throughout the year. We say it silent. We almost whisper. We whisper it. And I asked him about that. He said, it's a mystery. I said, Yom Kippur, it may be just because of the solemnity of the event. There's way more emphasis on the holiest day of the year. He had a little bit of an explanation for me, but I asked a question. I may not always be able to answer your questions, but I do know a good resource. It's the Torah.
Yes.
I will go and search things out.
That's right.
And look for things because I want to know as well. I want to learn as well.
11:04.
So this basically what was done with Ezra and Moses, it started to bring about this new kind of leadership in a biblical Israel. The teacher became the hero. I think it was last week. The president of the synagogue, he suggested that I watch The Chosen. And we've watched a few episodes. And you can really see that. They portray Nicodemus. He's a teacher of teachers. And then you have the Messiah. People are drawn to what he's saying. They've done a really good job of bringing out the groups in there and bringing a lot of Jewishness to it. I'm really enjoying that. A lot of times I usually have objections watching a lot of these things, but I still do. I still have some questions, but it's just, it really is good. It does get you thinking. And so, but here we have, the Torah and so much emphasis on the teaching and the learning, this became the basis of Judaism. And that's what survived the culture of Greece. That's what survived the military might of Rome. That's why I was bringing up The Chosen, because they actually did get the political part of it very good. That the Messiah coming around, it was being perceived as a political unrest. But Messiah was talking about a kingdom that is not of this world. Intriguing to say, nonetheless. I know I've gone over time. I'm hurrying to a close here. But like I said, it survived the cultural challenge of Greece, the might of Rome. The Judaism of kings and priests and palaces and temple, and the Judaism of the school and the synagogue and the house of study. By the time the first century came around, compulsory education was in place. Everyone had to go to school to learn Torah. Right. This was an achievement that is mentioned in the Talmud, and it was done by Yehoshua ben Gamla, and it's mentioned in Bava Batra 21a. This was the first of its kind anywhere in the world. And you know what? And today, and I'm going to say this with much emphasis, that very foundation right there is what is attacked by every other group in the world. And I hate to say it, but it's true. The religious groups, the other religious groups, they attack that very foundation, and they've managed to demonize it over the years.
Right. This is effective.
And it's effective. It's effective. So it was not until modern times that the idea of universal education really started to spread. So other cultures, other people learned. And then, of course, people started being educated in how they wanted them to be educated. England had the Education Act of the 1870s. I don't exactly remember when it started happening in America, but you have, I can drive through the countryside and I can find a broken old schoolhouse from somewhere that was from a day long ago.
Right.
You go into the Mennonite and Amish community right here in Iowa, and you'll see little schoolhouses.
Yep.
They still keep that tradition going, keeping it in-house. But even today, some 50 million children still are uneducated in places around the world, like Ethiopia and Haiti and Somalia. Education is the key to human dignity.
Right.
And it should be available to all. Torah, available to all. Havenu Shalom aleichem. Havenu Shalom aleichem. Havenu Shalom aleichem. Havenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom aleichem. Havenu Shalom aleichem. May the Lord bless you. And may the Lord guard you. I like that word better than keep. We're guarding the Torah. God is guarding us because we're guarding the Torah. V'yasmarecha, guard you. May the Lord shine his countenance upon you and be gracious to you.
Yes.
May God turn his countenance toward you and grant you shalom, peace. Shabbat shalom. Hag Sameach.